I'm Cranberry. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a journal flip through and setup of my 2021 planner. I had a little battle with the Twitch recording software versus my computer, and let's just say I lost some footage, so I will have a little bit less than normal in this video. Hopefully I can remedy that next month. I have cleared out some storage, so hopefully that'll help. Now, without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so to start off, I'm using the Rach Lee bullet journal. I believe it's called the Doodle Planner. I'm also using a couple of her washi tapes, and I will post in the description the information about this journal. It's so nice. It's 160 GSM, really thick quality paper. The only thing that bleeds through it so far, from what I can tell, is Copic markers, which no surprise there. I'm using some Amazon markers for this, but I have ordered a couple of Tombow ones, which I'll be reviewing in a later video. At this point, you can see I've just started laying out my grid. This is something I've seen quite a few other bullet journalers do, and I'm going to give it a shot this year to see if I find it useful. Basically, you split it up so that you can see your columns based on if it's quarters, thirds, or halves, just so that you have an idea of how you want to split up pages. I'm going to try and refer back to this all year. You can see at the top it also has numbers, so I've got the numbers across the top and down, and that just lets me follow along so I know how many dots, or I think they're called dockets. I'm probably wrong on that. How many dots are in each page. So I just decided to highlight these, and I did different colors for each section. So the halves I did in the yellow, and then the full one I did in like a pinky yellow, so it didn't show up nearly as well. It was kind of similar. And then I did brown for thirds, and I believe I did like an actual pink for the quarters. And I just thought this was a good way to make it easier for me to look over this later and not have to worry about having to figure out which line was which. I could just kind of refer to it. I'm testing my paper as well, just to make sure that I'm getting the right color before I put it down on the page. And you'll see I've also labeled it with the thirds, quarters, half, so I know what's going on. And at the bottom, I also have the numbers, so 8, 9, 12, 19, so I know how many of those dots I have per part of the section. So I know that there's 8 for the, what is that, quarter? For the quarter, there's 8 in a row, and then you have another 8, and so on, till you have all 4 quarters. So it makes it a little easier when you're trying to plan it to know that. So that's my basic setup for the grid, and this is just something I'll refer to throughout the process. Then I just gave it a little label, nothing too fancy. I'm still working on my lettering, so it's a little messy, but that's what this is about. The whole process is about getting better at lettering and learning to draw. At least that's why I found bullet journaling. I also like it for mental health, though. It's just such a nice process. It is really soothing in the evening to have that pattern of going and filling in everything every day. And then in the morning, filling out my sleep. It's just nice to have something to come back to, and getting to doodle in there and not feel like there's any stress to it is really pleasant. I do enjoy practicing my lettering as well, but for this, I don't know why. This one just ended up being very casual and loose. And actually, looking at it now, it has a bit of a 60s, 70s vibe, which is kind of what I'm going into right now. I have like a really 50s, 60s vibe going on in my fashion sense, and I think it's bleeding into my daily life. I do have Pinterest references up there as I was live streaming this, so apologies for that showing up. I'll probably avoid that next time so that we don't have that on the screen. But it is useful to see how they've organized it. I found this grid quite complicated to try and figure out. It took me a little while to figure out the spacing and exactly how they'd laid it out. But once I got it, I think it makes sense. So I guess we'll find out throughout the year if it actually is logical. Alright, so now we're going to get started on the key. So this is basically our guide on all of our notations, what we're going to be using for each section, and what we're going to be just using within each month for my notes. So I have a couple of different points that I'm putting. I'm going to have my regular dots, which are basically any tasks I have that are kind of general. And then I have my events, which are little triangles. And then I have the completed version. I also have a little, I don't know what it's called, swooshy dash. It has an official name. You can put it in the comments if you like, but I'm going to keep calling it a swooshy dash, which is my symbol for any journal entries that I'll put in for each day, because I like to have my tasks and my events, and then I like to fill in my other information below. Generally, it's like the highlights of my days, highs and lows, that sort of thing, and any key events that happened. So this is just kind of my 2-page spread that's necessary for the rest of the book to succeed. So I kept this very simple. I just did a quick little dot and line detail, and then later we'll come back to it again and do some more complicated designs. I want to experiment a bit more this year with doing watercolor and working with markers, because my last book wouldn't really allow for it because the paper was so thin. So I had a very good time doing that. And then some of the later spreads as well, I got very creative with the art, which was really enjoyable. So this is where I started getting a bit more creative and adding some fun details. My friend Sam's done a bit of this sort of style, but with watercolor, so I wanted to see how it would work with pen. She also has a YouTube channel under Cozy Foot. I'll link it below, but I definitely recommend you check it out. She does a lot of ASMR plant-based drawings with watercolor, and she reads out the details of how each of the plants works and what they're used for, which is really awesome. So for this, I just kind of did a black outline on some sections and then did the petals for some of these flowers. I kept it to the same palette, so lots of those light yellows and softer tones. I'm keeping it kind of pastel from what I can tell, which is not usually my vibe, but it seems to be going that way. I did the pink and yellow, and then I just added a touch of blue near the end. I did end up using my Copic marker, which is how I figured out that it bled. So that was problematic, but now I know, and it was early on in the journal, so it won't ruin any other pages. Hopefully the stamps will hide the blue mark when we get to that point. I really love this though. I had a lot of fun doing all the different shapes and the silhouettes. It's a style that I haven't really played with in the past, and I definitely want to try and get into it a little bit more, because it was really fun and loose, and I ended up loving how it looked. I specifically like that little one on the right that has the pink bits. I think it's really pretty. Ah yes, and here's the bleed through. You can see that it has affected the other page, but it's such a pretty shaded blue. I ended up ordering some Tombos the other day, which will be in one of my review videos, and I got a shaded blue that's kind of similar to this, because I just adore the shade, but I just can't use the Copic markers in this book. But I really like how this turned out. It's so cute, and the colors are really pretty, and I don't know what's going on. Maybe I do like pastels now. I've always said that pastels were something I wasn't into, and all of a sudden this seems to be the way things are going. But I mean, you evolve, and each year something changes, and this year it is 50s, 60s, and pastel, apparently. I'm still super in love with the mustard color and the blue. Like this shirt that I'm wearing with the polka dots is my love. I adore this shirt so much. It makes me very happy. I think this design really rounded out this key and made this page look a lot more beautiful than it had before. It looked kind of plain and stark before, and now I think it's just more elegant, and it makes me want to flip to this page and look at the grid and look at my key and just admire it now. It's so pretty. After that, I just added in some details to make it a little bit more vibrant, and I added in this one last plant here to kind of balance it out. And this one was a little finicky. I ended up doing it in black because I couldn't really balance it, but I ended up liking how it turned out. After I did the black, I ended up adding this little yellow detail on top, and I think that really rounded it out and made it look a little bit like fireweed or lupin or something around that kind of flower family. I think it looked really pretty. A lot of these were out of my imagination, so I didn't really have a specific plant. Then I went up and around the dots at the key, I ended up adding a little bit of yellow and doing a pretty petaled thing there. And I added a couple of stamens off the flowers just to give it a little bit more of that detail. And I think it worked. After the key, I left a 2-page spread for my yearly calendar. That's just going to go over all the main events for the year and give me an idea of how many or which weeks are which and what days I need in each month, how many days are in the month, and so on. And I have got some beautiful calendar stamps coming, so I'm looking forward to doing that. I figured it would be a little better this year to do stamps for a lot of that sort of thing. The next page I started was a nice self-care spread. So I laid it out and did a nice washi tape and black border, and I put in sections for my mind, body, heart, and soul. After the fact, I realized that I didn't really understand the difference between mind, heart, and soul, so if you want to explain that in the comments, please do. I found it on a Pinterest board, put it in, and then immediately was like, I probably should just have mind and body. So next year I'll probably do mind and body and just leave it at that, because I ended up kind of filling it out as if mind, heart, and soul were all the same thing. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see if I end up filling out more in those columns later and if I figure out how to differentiate them. If not, then I guess I'll just change it next year. I don't know about you, but I've been getting a lot of anxiety this year. And in general, I get lots of anxiety. But this year specifically, there's been a lot more. So I figured a self-care area would be good for me. It's good to have something to refer back to when I'm feeling down or just in a mood. And I can remember, oh yeah, I'd like to draw or go for a walk or have a meditation and just remind myself to center and do that. So I think that'll be really nice and calming for me. All right, well, here's where I admit that I made a boo-boo. I originally did this in yellow and put mind, body, soul, and it just looked terrible. So then I covered it in the black. So I did this big black band and I was not sure how to fix it. And I want to just say this is kind of a testament of how you can repair something and not everything is ruined when you make an error. So I basically covered it in the black and then put the washi tape over. And then later I came back and did a nice little yellow mark across, like a yellow banding, and added a little plant. And it looked really cute and it's one of my favorite spreads now. But when I did this, I was so upset about it because I did this weird jelly pen thing, and then before that I had a yellow underneath it. It just looked terrible. I was like, oh, I don't want this in my journal, maybe I'll take it out. And I went, you can't take it out, it's part of the book, like you can't really rip it out. In the end it ended up working out and I'm glad I got to a spot which was nice. Sometimes you just need to come up with a new solution, and if something's not working, quit while you're ahead and try something new. And I think the washi tape looked super cute and it gave it another little detail which it didn't have before. This is some of Amanda Rach Lee's washi tape as well, which you can find on her website. Again, I'm going to link that in the description in case you're interested in taking a look at it. After that, I added a slightly different Amanda Rach Lee washi tape and added my titles for mind, body, heart, and soul. This spread went a little chaotically, but in the end, I'm pretty happy with how it came out. I think this is going to be a very useful spread for the rest of the year, and I look forward to getting some use out of it. Here I'm just adding a divider between each of the sections so that it's really clear. And I realized later I forgot to put it on the second side, but I came back and did it when I did the color. So that's the main thing. I filled in each of the columns with a couple of items, just suggestions of what could be done for each of those subjects. Again, wasn't quite sure what the difference between mind, heart, and soul was, so I just put in some things into each column. And I left room for me to come back and add more when I think of them later. I decided to do each section in a different color. It mimics the grid and that color palette I had going already. It's simple, fun, it's just a nice way to differentiate between each of the categories. After I finished that, I ended up adding the color. So I added a little bit of a yellow detail in a couple of spots, as well as a plant. And I'm really happy with the plant. I think it turned out really cute. It just was a little brown pot, and then I added what I think would be considered like an anthurium or something with big petals or big leaves. And I'm really happy with it. I think the colors were really nice, and I like the shape of it. I think it really just rounds it out, especially since self-care was very spaced. It kind of fills in that gap, which is exactly what I needed on this page. And it just, yeah, adding those little doodles really grounds the page and makes them feel a lot more artistic. And in the end, like, I'm using this to practice my drawing, so it's perfect to have something a little more detailed on there. I think it actually brought the page alive a lot to have just that little bit of color and that plant. Even being not a real plant, it just brings that extra nature and life to it. And I think it looks really special. And then I finished it off with the yellow line at the top and around the detailing there. And this is where I noticed I was missing that line, so I went in and filled in that matching border. And I also added the yellow around the washi tape, which I think just kind of made it pop, and it made it feel very special and scrapbooky, which I really enjoyed. The next spread I started was a books I read spread, and that was basically one that I wanted to have for the full year. I wanted to have a layout that I could fill in the titles of each of the books I've read throughout the year and just kind of keep a diary log of that in one section. I had the first side be the books I've read, and then the second side's book club. I'm in a book club where we read 12 books in the year, one per month. We vote on the books, and then we give a review and do a little book video at the end. This year I had a spread in each of my monthly planners with that, but I found in the end that it was just a little clunky and I didn't really fill it out. So this year I decided to try something new. I put all 12 on one spread, and then I can just fill in the number of stars I thought it had, just color in the stars, and then write a very small description underneath, and then I'll just color the book cover on there. And then while I'm writing my notes, like, I can write notes throughout the month, but generally I've been finding I've mostly been just keeping it in my head. So this is just kind of a way for me to keep track of all of that. Now that I have the book club star layout done, I'm going back to the books I've read in 2021 spread and adding all the books. This was a bit of a tedious process as I had to individually draw each book and item on the shelf and then go back and ink it. So I've skipped over it a little bit in this process. For some reason, my Artist Loft pen was not working at all for this. I think maybe because I've been using it to bullet journal for all of 2020, I have used it up for the most part. So I ended up switching over to my Micron pens. Incidentally, though, the Microns don't work in my old book and the Artist Loft ones do, and then vice versa for this one. So it might just be something to do with the paper. I first laid out all the books, and then I went back in and outlined them and gave them a couple of details, some little bookend bits, and I added some plants. I put 2 plants on the bookcase, and I think they turned out really cute, and they kind of mimic the one that I ended up putting on the mental health page. So I'm really happy with that. I think overall this spread and my mental health page are my 2 favorites. I really like the colors that are on them, and they were really fun to do. I also enjoyed the birthday spread I made, which you'll see in a little bit, as well as the New Year's spread. But these 2 were the prettiest and definitely the most fun. I'm really looking forward to my different monthly spreads, though, because I have, like, jellyfish and cacti and cats and tea. And there's just a whole bunch of really fun ones. I think I did go through this when I was live streaming what they were, so I might have a screen somewhere later that'll pop up with that information. So I tested all my colors again on my piece of paper, and I thought this was a really good way to do it because then I didn't end up accidentally putting the wrong colors in or adding colors that were misleading. This pen set, they don't actually have a brand name on them. They just say fine tip and brush tip. And some of them, the caps don't match what the color is. The colors aren't necessarily bad, but it's kind of misleading. Like, the pink looks yellow. So I definitely tested everything before I put it on the page in order to make sure that everything lined up properly and didn't ruin my scheme, because that would be the worst. So I ended up going in and making the shelves have like a nice pinky yellow color, and I went in and did the planters in the brown with like a touch of pinky yellow as well. And then I went in and did 2 shades of green on the plants just to give them a little zhuzh. Later, I'll probably color the books as I read them. Basically, I'll just do the spine the color of the actual book, or I might just aesthetically design them later. but I haven't quite decided what to do with that, so I'm going to leave it as is for now. I decided to do the 2 plants in different shades of green in order to add a little bit of a balance to the page and also create a little interest. And then for the top plant, I ended up actually adding little brown marks on it to create that succulent look, because I have a succulent that looks kind of like that. So I figured it would look kind of cute. I think they turned out fantastic. I'm really happy with these 2 plants. They're adorable and they make me very happy. Okay, so this is where I lost a bunch of information. I had set this whole page up on stream and for some reason it didn't save. I also set up a birthday spread and a savings jar and a wants and needs, and unfortunately they didn't end up in here. So I'll go through those in the flip through and kind of explain my process a little bit afterwards. But for now, we'll take a look at this. Basically, I just did a very basic layout with like one main goal and then some smaller goals and then highlighted in yellow. And then I added a bit more of the Washi Tape. I'm just adoring it right now, so it's going to be all over this journal. Specifically in this main section, though. She has different packs, too, so you can get little colored ones or you can get the black and white or brown or whichever pack you want. They're really cute. And I think they really finish off the page. Okay, so here's the final flip through. I'll show you all the pages that we didn't get to see earlier. My messy cover page. This is super simple. I just did the 2021 lettering. Kept it very light, easy, just an outlined black letter system. I might do some of the yellow around here later, just to highlight it a little. But basically the idea with this is I plan on having each of the images from my months on this page. So there'll be a dinosaur and a cactus and a jellyfish, and you get the idea, just a little bit of everything. So you'll get kind of a highlight reel of what's going to be inside the journal. Then we have my grid and my key, which I think turned out really pretty. The key is one of my favorite pages. It's so beautiful with the like light yellow and the pink and the blue. Definitely getting more into the pastels as we go. And the grid, and that's just useful for understanding how the book's laid out, as I mentioned earlier. We have a blank page, which, as I mentioned, is going to have my calendar for my year in review or year in advance. I have my calendar, which I'm going to fill in later when I have my stamp. Self-care. So this section has the little plant and the washi tape from Rach, my little line dividers, and then I've just filled in some categories. And as I go, I'll add more things as I find fun things that I enjoy. And I'm really happy with like the little plant and the washi tape. I think it's very pretty. And I love this little tape doodad. I think the highlight around it really pops too. It's quite pretty. So that's something I enjoyed doing. Books I've read, and again I'm going to fill this in for each book I read throughout the month, and it has the little plants on the shelves, quite pretty. And then my star system for my 12 months of book club. So each month I'll fill in a cover in grayscale or maybe color if I feel like it, do the stars for how much I like the book, and then a very brief description of why I liked or didn't like the book. Birthdays. I wish I'd gotten to show you this in drawing, but my system lost storage space. But basically I'm going to put in all the birthdays for my friends and family, and that's going to be like 1st of January or 30th of January, and then I'll have Mike or whoever is there, and I can just refer back to this each month to figure out who I need to be wishing happy birthday to. And that way I'm not bombarded by all the ones on Facebook. This spread, also wish you guys had seen this one because I had a lot of fun doing this. I did a savings jar, so it's up to 10K right now. That's my goal for 2021, to save $10,000 for my business and also for saving, just like a little extra. And then I made this page over here with wants and needs. I might color this post in later. At the moment, I'm kind of enjoying having this being grayscale, or black and white, I guess. And basically I'll put in my wants here and my needs here. So if I don't know, need new toothbrush bits, I can put them there. Or I can put in wants that I want an art cart or something like that. Or for instance, for the cafe, eventually I'll need an espresso machine, stuff like that. I can add them in there. Or for YouTube, stuff like that. So the last spread I have is my New Year's goals. And this one has just one big section for the main goal and then the 4 extra ones. So some smaller goals I'd like to accomplish. I think the one big goal is going to be to reach 10K in my savings account. And then some of the smaller ones are going to be trying to grow my hair out to being past my chest. Haven't thought of the other ones yet, but I'll think of some and fill it in, and then we'll have that. And I really like how this washi tape turned out in the corners. I think it turned out really pretty, and the line work here was fun. I really enjoy this highlight technique. So then this will be where I put my first January spread for my jellyfish theme. I'm going to have so much fun with that. I think it's going to be really pretty. And as I said, this is Amanda Rach Lee journal. I'll definitely post this in the description for you guys to check out. It's gorgeous. I really love what it's made of. And it's got like the pen spot and the little strap. I'm obviously not sponsored by her, but I really like it, so thought I'd put it out there. And I think she has some new ones coming out at some point. This is her first one, though, this series, but they come in, I think, brown, pink, blue, and maybe white or black. I think black. Alright, so that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit that bell button in order to see all future notifications. If you're interested in getting more involved in my community, you're welcome to join the Discord channel that we have. I post my journals there, as well as I love to see everyone else's work. If you have a 2021 spread that you did, I'd love to see it there. I also do a Twitch stream monthly for bullet journaling, and I also stream there with games and other things, and that's under Wolfish Tendency. And I will post all of that in the comments. All right, you guys have a lovely day. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit that bell button if you want to see more videos like this, and I look forward to hearing from you in the comments. Have a great day.